Hello everyone. Here is a new manga about rebirth. I hope you like it and you will support the video. Enjoy your viewing. My thoughts were in a fog. Summer isn't over yet. Although it's so cold. I opened my eyes and saw a light in the distance, but it was dark all around. It was like I was in water, but I wasn't drowning. I feel something warm behind me. It seemed to me at that moment, after which I turned my head and saw a girl I had never seen before. A foreigner? I thought, looking at the girl with pointed ears like an elf, as well as horns that peeked out from behind her hair. About her eyes? Yes, eyes. And there's nothing to say. Maybe she's not human? I looked into her eyes, in which I saw crosses. A little earlier. I was punching the product at the checkout. After all, I'm a cashier in a store. I say almost the same sentences every day. That'll be 4,301. Do you have a regular customer card? Do you need a package? Do you need a receipt? Thanks for the purchase. Have a nice day. And everything like that. I worked in a convenience store where customers are quite rare. I haven't had a chance to meet people since my break started. It feels like my tongue has turned to stone. I was lying at the checkout and looking at the phone when I suddenly got a little inspired. Oh? Updated the chapter in the middle of the night? You may ask why I work in this store, if I'm going to continue living like this, but I really don't care as long as I get paid well. The main question is, how will I spend all my free time? And I will answer. I sit on the phone and read Ranab, Manhwa, fan fiction, books and so on. Have you added a new character? I wondered. Not bad. A new character at this stage is quite a common and obvious thing. After all, this is not the first or the second book I have read in my life. Usually I can predict how the story will develop from the very beginning, but that's why I like it so much. Countless challenges for the hero. Cute heroines. The heart of dragons, powerful artifacts like magic swords, and at the end a battle with the creator or the devil. The story is similar to an epic. That's why I love fantasy, it's so familiar to me, and I can tell what will happen next. This is my school life after graduation. In the vast future, after I become old, these familiar stories warm my soul. At that moment, a shift worker and an administrator came to me, after which the second one asked. "Oh Joo Yoon, you didn't have any problems, did you?" Well, naturally I replied that there were no problems. Then I wandered home in the middle of the night. I went through another dreary day. On the way home, I constantly have the same thoughts in my head. If I continue to live this life, what will happen to me next? When suddenly I heard a sound that attracted me and I turned my head in fear. There, in the water, I saw the hand of a drowning man. I immediately realized that someone had fallen into the water in a place where you can't swim. Since it's early in the morning, no one is around. If I run to call for help, it might be too late. I immediately made a decision and began to walk with a confident but a little cowardly step into the water. What happened after that? I don't remember at all. Now we can go back to the moment when I was looking at a girl with wonderful and big eyes. Am I dead? Are you, like, a reaper? I asked her to dispel my doubts, after which I sighed and continued without waiting for an answer. Hey. Fucked up in full. I didn't think I wouldn't be able to swim out. My mistake. I scratched my head awkwardly and with a laugh decided to ask another question. Is the person I saved okay? But the girl just kept looking at me, with her own eyes with a cross instead of a pupil. He seems to be fine, thank God. It's amazing, I think I can read her mind. Telepathy? It was in my head and while I was thinking, a girl suddenly approached me and kissed me on the forehead. It certainly surprised me, but her voice appeared in my head. You have another chance. After that, I began to move away from the girl, plunging deeper into the water, but continued to try to speak. Another chance, you say? And her voice kept echoing in my head. A new life. In a new world. And as I sank deeper and deeper, my body began to glow more and more until I was completely naked. One word came clearly to my mind. Reincarnation. What the characters have experienced in the countless stories I've read. In the rays of the warming light, I began to be overwhelmed with emotions in anticipation of the new life I had received. It doesn't matter what I'm reborn into. My life there will probably be radically different from the previous one. The next moment I was already in some cave and screamed violently, and the next second, with my mouth open, I bit off a piece of stone and began to chew. I don't know what I've been reborn into, but so far I haven't even thought about it while chewing on a stone. There were many of the same creatures around me and they were all eating the earth. Suddenly, The creature next to me began to push hard until a perfectly rectangular brick flew out of his anus, which was suddenly grabbed by some forceps. But these were not forceps, but a hand or paw, but most likely the claw of another creature, much larger than all of us. What does it all mean? I asked myself a question in my head, but before I understand, I want to tell you how to distinguish me from the rest. I have hair on my head, here. Paying attention to the huge monster that was collecting bricks, I decided. At first, I need to find out where I am. Hey, what is this place? I approached this monster and asked a question, because of which all the eyes of the crowd converged on me. The monster, which looked more like a zombie orc, looked at me and was silent. Can't he talk? Something's not right here. Not at all, not at all. While I was thinking, the monster, who had no skin on his cheek and teeth peeking out, swung a whip and hit me with all his might, making strange noises. P. Kriverperko Park. Of course I didn't understand him, but since you are my viewers, you know what he said, namely. What the hell is wrong with this brick eater? All you need is to eat and shit. What the fuck are you slacking off for? Do you want to die? These were the words in his incomprehensible grumbling. This is my first spanking. Terrible pain. Why me? My consciousness was blurred, apparently I started to pass out from the pain. While I was being flogged, the girl I saw was in some other dimension and begged. Please grant him the strength to overcome all adversity and not lose himself. Help him. As she spoke, she was on her knees, almost crying. It took a long time before I woke up and immediately wondered. What's it? A window with characteristics was opened in front of me. Oh Joo Yoon. Soul rank E. The race is a brick eater. The physical level is a dash. Combat power 0.001. Exile of Narak. This is probably the name of the location I'm in. Skills. Eating dirty. To shit a brick EA window with the status as in the game? I wondered. By concentrating, I was able to see these pop-ups. But what should I do about it? The first thing I need to do right now is to avoid spanking. First you eat a delicious-looking piece of dirt. My bosses eat rocks instead of dirt. It's too difficult for me at the moment, so I'll focus on the dirt. After all I need to do is avoid being spanked. What goes in, then comes out. Let's continue to refrain from unnecessary clarifications. Think about how it will be fucked up. No, created, makes the taste of dirt even worse. Of course, if I don't eat dirt, I will be flogged half to death. In a cave with minimal lighting. We eat shit, we get fucked. Srem. No, we produce bricks without a break. This is the fate of the brick eaters. It's a living hell. Have I committed so many crimes in my past life? Although I remember selling expired lunch boxes in the store. Who would have thought that I would end up in this hell after death? When suddenly I was interrupted by a notification from the system that said, a new skill has been acquired. Skill? I was inspired. Not happening. A real skill? Is hell doing beta testing of games these days? Cool, the digital age. Meanwhile, a description of the skill opened up in front of me. Glorious solely. One who has a glorious soul is not subject to physical limitations. You have no physical limitations. It was a soul skill. Suddenly, my eyes began to blur and I began to see the text worse and worse. And all because I felt a surge of strength and only 2 words were in my head. Nice. Soul. There is something in this. Even though it was only for a moment, but I had a pleasant dream. All this talk about a glorious soul is like this or similar to this. It feels like all this was prepared for the sole purpose of making fun of me. I won't let you make a fool of me anymore. Suddenly I received a new notification from the system. You have gained 0.001 experience. If I shit. No, I produce bricks during the quest, then my experience seems to be growing. If I eat and shit at this pace for 16,560 years, I can reach the next rank. Seriously. This place is a living hell. Oh, can I also see the stats of other creatures? I asked myself a question and looked at the big monster, after which the system window lit up. A dishonest warden. The soul S rank is E. The zombie race. The physical level is 10. Combat power 11. The stench of endless punishment reeks. So their race is a zombie? Haha. Combat power 11? Well, it sucks. I thought and remembered my combat power, which was 0.001. It must be a joke. Suddenly, we all stood at attention. It's the first time I've seen these guys having such a noisy gathering. At that moment, while we, the brick makers, were standing and looking at the two zombies, they were muttering something on their own at that time. It seems that some important person is coming here. I realized when I saw some lizard-like creatures in red cloaks carrying flags. They made a passageway of themselves, and while some held flags, others bowed. The first thing I saw at the so-called bump was a demonic tail, then my gaze fell on a huge red chest. Of all the people I've already managed to see since I arrived here, she looks the most like a normal person. Her figure is nothing like that. A succubus was walking towards us, and she looked exactly as she was drawn in the hentai of my past world. Apparently, this person occupies the highest position in the leadership. I tried to get to the front of the mud eaters to get a better view of the situation. These zombie bastards don't dare even move in front of her. Well, will I be able to see her stats too? Suddenly, the system appeared. Oh. It works, it works. In the notification it was written. Director of Management. Soul rank B. The race is a Mizoku. Physical level 3. Combat power 40-10. An arrogant seeker of magic. Mizoku is a kind of demons if anything. Aren't her stats too high? While I was studying her characteristics, at that time she was communicating with the very zombie who almost killed me. I can't understand anything of what they are talking about. And I thought that the ability to understand their language should have been included. Suddenly, the two exchanged glances, but the zombie's gaze was fearful, and the demoness's gaze was frightening. Suddenly, everyone who looked into her eyes felt sick, and the next moment she raised her hand and said an incomprehensible word, after which the zombie began to try to escape, but not fate. The next moment, light flew out of the demon's finger, and the demon seemed to burn from the inside, it just tore. Wow. It's magic, right? From zombies to Mizoku, and even magic. Seeing all this evidence that I'm in a fantasy world, I get a little depressed. I am gnawing at the thought that somewhere in this world there are definitely elves, and that there is a girl in their tribe. And the fact that, just like now, I'm not meant to be with her. And one more thing. Zombies started packing us into bags, grabbing us with their smelly hands. For a brick eater like me, my lifespan is. No, to be more specific, I wanted to say that my endurance has one feature. The harder I work, the faster one thing catches up with me. By eating the rocks on the cave walls and creating bricks, the dust left behind in my body accumulates and hardens, eventually destroying my entire body. Wouldn't that be considered an industrial disaster? It was difficult for me before I was reborn. In addition, in this place, force and cruelty have replaced law and welfare. Work faster, bug. The zombie mumbled, standing over my neighbor. After they were shown magic as a bonus, the situation got a little worse for them. The zombie guards were desperate and began to put even more pressure on us. To prevent us from cheating, we were not allowed to eat pieces of broken stones. Damn it. I envy these brick eaters. To be like that from the very beginning and not know anything else. You guys must be feeling happy. But I'm not like that. I'm about Joo Yoon. I know a lot more about life than the simple brick eater. No. Unlike brick eaters and lousy zombies, I was a completely different race from the very beginning. I thought and began to glow, it was as if some kind of crystal flashed in me, thanks to which, in the next moment, my whole body was covered with fire. Everything is right. I moved between dimensions. This strange confidence overwhelms me. I feel like I'm changing. It's like I hear a warm voice in my head, and it feels like it's me. Now I feel like I can do anything. Suddenly the system showed a new message. The activation of the hidden skill has begun. Truly. The prologue of my story has finally come to an end. Moving between dimensions and even the reason why I was reborn in a new life, a goal that I had forgotten. A power I had forgotten. Right now. I'm awake. The greatness of Babylon, a skill from the system sounded. Suddenly, a zombie's foot fell on my head and slammed me into the ground. There were questions in the eyes of the other stone eaters. What? Seriously? I decided to say it out loud. I don't even want to talk and just lay on the ground with my foot on my head. When suddenly a sepulchral voice sounded. Ah? What is this smelly bug talking about? I immediately opened my eyes wider and made a sound HMM. Then I heard the continuation of the sepulchral voice. It's a harbinger of death, you know? Smelly bug. Do you think you can take time off from work? Just for today, why don't you learn some manners after I beat you half to death? You'll be glad, right? What? I was thinking while other stone eaters were calling me names and laughing at me. This lazy guy is being punished, great. I want to hear him scream. I want to see him get beaten up a little more. This lazy guy is so stupid, it must be hurting him. How exciting. They said, but I began to understand the language of this world. When suddenly a system window popped up in front of my eyes. The greatness of Babylon Sea. Before the overthrow of the Tower of Babel, the whole world spoke the same language. A special service for those who have crossed the dimensions. The agony of not being able to communicate with others has been eliminated. Now you understand the language of this world and can speak it. Soul skill. The Stone Eaters continued to work until the next moment I flew into the ground from a strong blow. The zombie had already beaten me up and thrown me after. Come on, get ready and get to work. It was incredibly painful for me, there was no living place on my body. The other Death Eaters laughed at me. Kikiki. The lazy man is back. He's covered in bruises. Kikiki. The worst of us. Dumbus. Kikiki. Everything is fine for them as long as they are safe and sound, isn't it? No, rather, they are having fun, looking at how they hurt me. So that's what it is, the thinking of slaves who have rallied together. I kept sitting there and thinking like a zombie shouted. Do you want to get it again? Since there was no other choice, I was making bricks and I was very exhausted. Time is running out, and I'm just wasting my life in nowhere. I'm just a disposable industrial tool. Loser. When there was already a mountain of bricks behind me, my body began to crumble. Slowly but surely my end is coming. Not being able to see the sunrise or sunset, I can't say exactly how much time has passed at all. In the current situation, I can only assume that months have passed. Thanks to all the work that these responsible and hardworking zombies forced us to do, my body is rapidly collapsing. In just a couple of hours, my life will come to an end, and my short fantasy life will also end. This hopeless, unbalanced life, this worthless character, this unsuccessful operation, and I know this game is lost. Suddenly, looking at another devourer, who also began to crumble but continued to eat the earth, I asked, "What are you doing?" And I got an answer. "I am working." The lazy guy talking to me is bothering me. If I don't work, I will be beaten. If I am beaten now, I will die. Listening to him, I decided to laugh at him. Even though I'm doing nothing, I'm not getting beaten up, am I? And I bet if you keep shoving all this stuff into your stomach, you're going to die anyway, aren't you? Just look at yourself. When suddenly the Death Eater turned on me, with a face that gave out a blue screen of death. His brain was overloaded and he just fell to the ground. Yeah, get some rest. I said with a chuckle. I think that the ability to understand the language of this world is a useful thing. Although it will soon be useless. Good. What a relief. It would be creepy to live like this forever. Suddenly I remembered the girl who gave me a second life. Thanks to her, of course. And yet I want to believe that everything that the person who sent me here has done for me is not so bad. The Reaper of Death? No, if you think of her as a kind of angel, she's something like a government employee. I remember her last words before I got here. I'm sorry, I can't do any ceremonies for you or give you abilities, as it's beyond my power. She spoke then, laughing. I'll have to see her again soon. Gradually, my skin began to lose color. Every second I felt like I was drying up. As soon as I get there, I have to ask her if she's really a rank 9 official. When suddenly, me and everyone else who also started to die, the zombie began to throw off the cliff, with the words. What a hemorrhoid. Why don't you roll over there yourself when you're about to die? Pathetic bugs. I flew and flew and flew. Suddenly seeing how they were falling, as if into the mouth of some monster, but it was all the same, and even though I landed, I just kept lying on the ground, waiting for death. Suddenly, a man and a dog came up to me, hearing me puffing before death. When they picked me up from the ground, they saw the blue crystal that was inside me. After taking it out, the man was very happy, well, like a human zombie. Zombie girl. And while she was looking at my crystal, someone shouted in her direction. What are you dreaming about there? Do you want to wander around here forever, digging in the excrement? I wonder why you are so weak and your knowledge is so superficial? With such zeal to rummage in this valley of feces. A zombie man with a huge left arm and head was talking, continuing. Trying to find something valuable in this garbage won't lead to anything worthwhile, and, frankly, it scares me that being dead, you don't listen and behave so selfishly. If we rephrase this sentence in simple words, it will turn out like this. It annoys me that our master tells us to look for treasures in this pile of shit. It's just that this zombie was trying to sound smart and talk like a philosopher. As well as the fact that if we really find great joy in this pile of feces, the thoughts of dead people like us will only be further clouded. He continued, and his words meant this. If you actually find something, then we'll have to do this shit again. Clenching his hand into a fist, the man continued. We who obey orders will have to rummage through the feces of these bugs every day. I don't want to work. Further, the girl and the dog got to their feet and followed this man, whose mouth did not shut up all the way. When a dead man thinks with outstanding thoughts, what will become of the legs on which inferior people stand? In order for a dead person to choose his own path and not follow another, he must first become worthy of this path. In order for the dead to resolve their differences, they must take the path of violence. This is the teaching that the sage bequeathed to us. Therefore, we must make every effort to create a situation in which we would not have to work. Suddenly, I was able to think again. It's so noisy here. I can't even sleep. Wait, come to think of it, didn't I die? Besides, this is the second time. Suddenly I saw above me a huge bearded face that spoke. Kyoha. To bring something so amazing. I think sometimes you can be useful. Then he turned as if to me. The child. I do not know a way to secure the body. Of all things, the lowest of the dead is risen. What the hell is this? I thought and saw a dog running towards me. It looks like a set or some old horror movie. When suddenly I saw the dog's mouth, as close as possible. The next moment she was distracted and the monster that was standing over me a little earlier was already shouting at her. I thought I was already looking at the insides of a dog. I was wondering what kind of trouble I was in. The ability to experience happiness or unhappiness in itself confirms that I have not reached the perfect state of death. Suddenly, the face seemed to come closer to me again, and a voice sounded. Now you will be reborn, brat. You will see a completely new world, unimaginable to a simple brick eater. He was talking, and I began to think hard. I know of some worlds that would be impossible to imagine under normal circumstances, but, alas, I can't show you any of them. Get ready to serve your creator. The zombie scientist shouted and started inserting my crystal into someone's body. Oh. Can I just not be reborn and serve you instead? I thought. I've already had a hard time. Damn, my thoughts are interrupted again. What is this place? Suddenly, I saw the girl who gave me a second chance again. Wow. After so many months, we met again. There's so much I want to ask you, you know? Hey. Hi. Do you hear me? It's a little heartless of you to ignore me so obviously. Is there no place in your heart for regret about the hellish place you sent me to? I spoke to her in my thoughts while she was silent, and the next moment, another girl appeared before my eyes. I don't recognize her. The memory from my head is gradually coming back to me. Not that I actually have a head, but that's how it feels. My sisters? My citizens? Whatever it was, what that man told me about his official rank is definitely not true. Memories that don't belong to me are slowly creeping into my head. And when I see my so-called sisters, it's hard for me to restrain my pity for them. The suffering is bursting out. Readiness for the sake of the kingdom. And for the sake of the brotherhood. More and more incomprehensible memories came to my mind. In the current one, we were attacked by an army of demons, and my sister and I defended the castle. Get ready, Reisener. She told me and I answered well, standing in armor. It finally dawned on me that these are scenes from the past. These events have already passed and they cannot be changed. The owner of that voice in my head understands that too. But, even in spite of this, that man was calling out to his sister to run away. These screams from unbearable suffering that was never destined to reach her. Suddenly, the next moment I came to my senses and opened my eyes. I immediately drew attention to my condition, but my thoughts were still empty. I saw the same zombie scientist whom I had seen in a dream a little earlier. He was talking. Look, this is my creation. You are my creation. Truly, you are a product that I will be proud of. A product that has been blessed. What about the name? I, Luzafel, will give you the name that first came to my mind. Crab Hand. While I was listening to this scientist, I still didn't understand what was going on. The name is Crab Hand, he gave it for a reason. My right hand really was a claw, like a crab. Finally an idea came to my mind. Was my second reincarnation successful?